Hello, Christina here. I know it's been a while. And today I just wanted to give another little intro update about what Primal Coding is and how it's really changed drastically, even in the past month, in the past couple weeks. And this is just due to the constant research and the constant research within myself, the constant reading that I'm doing. And I had this moment of just light bulb in that I've been hesitant to share because I feel like I'm creating this map that is very dense and becoming very detailed in its knowing. And I had this belief almost that it wasn't ready yet. It wasn't ready yet. But I think over the past few weeks, realizing that it's never gonna be ready and it's always going to be progressing, because that's what primal coding is. It's this progression of my knowledge. It's just me distilling all of these things down, and as I experience them, as my clients experience all of these things that I learn about breath, about movement, about how to understand and have a better relationship with your body, so that we can live to our highest potential as ourselves, and we can do those things that we think that in our mind tells us that we cannot do or may not do or will never do, like, oh, that's never, right? So ultimately, primal coding is teaching people how to learn a thing, right? And I'm just so happy to use breath or some movements, some spine movements, some subtle things, right? To help you understand this process. Because if we know how to learn something, then we can do anything, right? And our mind doesn't get in the way. We understand the process, right? And so within that understanding, there is this map. So breath. There's so many things out there. And I just want to be able to break them all down and distill them all down in a very palatable form. Like, oh, I can eat this, I can use this energy, I can transform it into my body, right? Weird accent sometimes. So it's talking about spectrums or dimensions of breath, right? There are so many aspects of breath that can be controlled. And getting into that idea first of control versus observation, and the power of both of these activities, because the breath is voluntary and involuntary, right? And we need to understand that sometimes we need to allow the breath to do its thing so we don't have to spend our mental attention to control it, right? I've done the work so that in this automatic state, my body doesn't have to think about that. I can think about other things, external focuses of attention, internal aspects of body, of movement, right? And they're not being, that mental energy is not being wasted on whether my breath is doing its job. Because if this engine's running efficiently, your mind's going to be sharper. You're going to be more in the zone. You are going to have more control, right? And this is what people need to start to understand. And there needs to somebody needs to start having a platform of how we're going to teach this, how this is going to be implemented into programs, into training certifications, for doctors, for chiropractors, for physical therapists, for kids. Like, what is the structure and how does it look on all these levels of education? How are we going to, and if we can get the kids to understand these things without using all the jargon, right? When they go to learn something else, it's like, this is common knowing. What I want to teach others is something that everybody should already know. That's the kind of fucked up part. Excuse my language, is kind of fucked up. So now I'm blabbing, but just to get a little hint of the series of videos that I would like to share with you. Some of the spectrums of breath would be temperature. Okay, if I have a fever or if I'm really cold, How do I cool down my body, and how do I warm up my body? But then there's external temperature, right? There's different dimensions that I can have. Is it really cold outside? Is it really hot outside? Like, how is my breath affected by these temperatures? And how can I maintain neutrality within all of these environments so that my body can do its thing and heal? Again, level of control versus observation. You don't have to understand everything that I'm saying today, but know that this is the depth and the understanding that is possible with the breath. And all of these things are based off of the theories of science. My background is not yoga. I've studied kinesiology, so I've studied the body for the past decade. And my self-study has been breath. Through the beginning, it was Kundalini yoga, right? But then I started to get into Qigong. I have the Buteyko breath method, and we have, the Wim Hof, we have the holotropic, we have, the sympathetic type breathing. And then we have this wonderful book of this French woman, Anatomy of Breathing. I have the polyvagal theory, which is a whole new way of understanding the parasympathetic and sympathetic systems that is much more detailed than what we are taught in school. All of these things are not being addressed, or I'm not seeing them addressed. And we also have, other dimensions would be speed. Am I speeding up my breath? Am I slowing down my breath? Okay, within that, what is the length of my breath? How many seconds am I inhaling and exhaling? And separate of that would be the volume of breath in which I do at that speed and that length. And that volume can change over time with efficiency, right? Because there is a certain level of volume of air that is highly beneficial to breathe per minute. But a lot of people are breathing too much per minute, and that's causing a lot less oxygen to get to all of the cells, and it's kind of being, held hostage in the blood, right? And this can cause so many deficiencies, and those deficiencies kind of depend on where you're more susceptible for injury, and that can be mental, that could be physical, and that's a whole other video. So we have levels of tension. So not even attention, because that's a main part. Where's my attention? But my levels of tension versus relaxation when I'm moving, when I'm breathing. Where am I putting my tension? And what depth, or what on the scale of spectrum, where am I relaxed to super tense? Within that rigidity, is there a sense of relaxation? So we can play around with these dimensions, and what that allows us to do is to have, again, more control of my ability to be fully tense, and then I can relax and melt every muscle of my body with one exhale, with one breath, right? And, overall, we have also the introduction of the four corners of the breath. So applying all of these spectrums to the four corners. The inhale, the hold, the exhale, the hold. And within that, we have certain volumes of breath, residual volumes that can be played with. And in playing with all of these aspects, we then begin to create more capacity. Now I can easily inhale for 20 seconds and exhale for 20 seconds. And that being very relative to the person, because that person who's breathing 20 is breathing in a different volume than this person, and it's feeling a lot different. Some days 20 seconds is so easy, and I'm like, oh, wow, I have so much space today. And sometimes I'm like, 10 is like a struggle. But I know my capacity, I know my ability, I know how to read my nervous system now, because I know all the places that it's been and where it can go and how to get it there. And then we're not focusing on anything but the current moment, ourselves, now, learning, understanding. And we also have the three aspects of breath. We have mobility, we have strength, and we have power. And we use these spectrums and dimensions, and we use the corners to gain these different aspects of mobility, strength, and power. So usable range of motion, proper force production, which helps aid in protection in, when I'm deadlifting, when I'm squatting, when I'm doing anything, maybe exerting any, pushing on and exerting any type of external force, right? Deadlifting is a huge aspect of this, and this is a lot of my clients, 95% are males, getting them to deadlift again and getting them to in their mind believe that they can. And I think that's the biggest block I see with a lot of men. I call men out, and women too. Athletes who just hurt themselves from the bad coaching over many years. And you know what? I would be afraid of deadlifting too if I were you. I would. But when you build a rare relationship with your breath, and then in part with your spine, you start to get into spine segmentation. But the breath really prepares us for that movement. It prepares the spine to have space, to have room, to have usable range of motion, mobility, right? And then power is, that speed. For me, the breath of power would be breath of fire, right? Because it's a little, there's some force, and speed, right? It's the speed of the force. And that's what power is, right? Velocity, force. That peak power is kind of like in the middle. And there's this rhythm that happens. And I think overall, when people understand breath, there's a difference between subtle, chronic experience and peak experience. And, we're a society of peak experience. We're a society that wants to see the angels and God, or wants to, see it for themselves. I want to see it happen. But sometimes, you know what? It needs to be subtle to be heard. We need to shut up and quiet down and listen. Because those subtle experiences are what are dictating. Those subtle chronic patterns of breath and movement that we're constantly in, we're constantly doing, those subtle patterns of thought we can't even hear because we need to be screamed at in order to hear it, right? We need an injury, we need something significant to happen before we wake the fuck up, right? But these subtle patterns are what are affecting our everyday life, not these peak experiences. So it takes time. It's kind of painstakingly, sometimes it's so boring. But once you get past the boredom, you find the stillness, and you find the ability to remain neutral, and you find the ability to sit and observe and go, wow, my body really knows what the fuck is up. It knows what to do. And I have that power. So I can do fucking anything. That being said, that is Primal Coding. Ever changing, ever evolving. As I evolve, as I change, as you guys experience the thing and help me to change it, help me to evolve it. Because I'm tired of doing this alone. And I would love to share what I know with you guys and learn what you know and share it with me. How can we form this thing together? Thanks for listening. It's kind of a 13-minute video. So if you made it this far,